Have you ever played a game where you had to interpret what someone else was saying while not being able to hear properly? For the capital D deaf community, this is real life and an everyday challenge that they face. Despite this, the deaf community has found communication methods such as American Sign Language, lip reading, and cochlear implants to help them on a daily basis. For us as the non deaf community, it is our job to understand how they communicate so that we're able to adapt and communicate efficiently with them. Prior to choosing my major, in my eighth grade dance class, I learned a brief understanding of American Sign Language. And then, as a speech pathology and audiology major, I've learned about hearing disorders and how they affect the individual and their communication skills. But again, the deaf community has excelled at communication methods and have found that American Sign Language, lip reading, and cochlear implants are all forms of communication that work for them. Let's begin with American Sign Language, also known as the language of the deaf community. The National Institute on Deafness and Other Communication Disorders defines sign language as a complete natural language that has the same linguistic properties as a spoken language. Just how we speak English and we know our grammar rules and what words and sentences we would like to use, the deaf community uses sign language for the same exact purpose. Here I have a diagram of the American Sign Language alphabet from the American Society for Deaf Children. As you can see, they go through letters A through Z and show the hand motions used to form the proper letters. Now, despite the ability that American Sign Language is, there are interpreters who use sign language and are able to convert spoken language to sign language and sign language to spoken language. This allows for the bridge of communication between the deaf community and the non-deaf community to be crossed by using sign language and interpreters. Now, while sign language is relatively learned and developed as a child grows older, lip reading is an art that the deaf community considers to be another form of communication. Hearing Link defines lip reading as using any clues to help you make sense of what you are hearing, or if you have no hearing, to understand and follow the conversation, enabling you to take part in the conversation. While this tool is very effective and allows for communication to be reached without an interpreter or American Sign Language, it has also faced a major struggle. In the past year, with the COVID-19 pandemic, many American citizens began to wear masks to protect themselves from the COVID-19 virus. Although this was great and precautionary, it also prohibited the deaf community from using lip reading as a form of communication. However, Middle Tennessee State University's Speech Pathology and Audiology program developed the use of clear face masks so that their clients could still see their lips whenever they were providing treatment. This allowed for communication to still be reached and no difficulty in lip reading. Now, American Sign Language and lip reading both require another participant in forms of communication for the deaf community. However, cochlear implants provide a way of communicating where they don't need assistance from another person. The National Institute on Deafness and Other Communication Disorders defines a cochlear implant as a small, complex electronic device that helps provide a sense of sound to those without hearing or with difficulty hearing. The way this works is the cochlear implant is inserted into the skull and it bypasses the cochlea and sends sound waves straight to the auditory nerve. Here, I have a diagram of a cochlear implant, and it shows the transmitter, the speech processor, the receiver and stimulator, the microphone, and the electrode arrays. Here is the transmitter, and the transmitter is what connects to the brain and sends the sound waves. While this sounds like an amazing invention that can help the deaf community and could excel in communication, many people who come from deaf families do not like the idea of cochlear implants. As Missouri Medicine puts it, deaf people like being deaf, they want to be deaf, and are proud of their deafness. Going off of this, Lilith Marcus, a child of two deaf parents, goes on to say that she does not advocate for cochlear implants as they are harmful to the deaf community. She explains that many people do not see the difficulty that cochlear implants provide for the getting used to it, and the fear of hearing for the first time. Despite this difficulty, many people who have a deaf child and are not deaf themselves use cochlear implants as a helping mechanism to communication. Again, the deaf community uses American Sign Language, lip reading, and cochlear implants as forms of communication with the deaf community and the non-deaf community. For us as the non-deaf community, understanding these ways of communication allow for us to adjust our communication skills and communicate more properly with the deaf community. Next time you play a game where you have to interpret what someone's saying, think about how difficult it is for the deaf community and think of ways where you can adjust your communication skills to fit them more properly.